Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including BoJack Horseman, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
Sam Quattro.
Hi.
And Allie Martin.
Hey.
We're here back for the last time for BoJack Season 6, Part 1, to talk about the last two episodes of this half season. Episodes 7 and 8, The Face of Depression, and a quick one while he's away. We've been talking about all of BoJack Season 6, Part 1 here at the Overly Animated Podcast. Find our previous Season 6 podcasts at overlyanimated.com. Search for us on your favorite podcast app by searching BoJack Horseman Overly Animated. Or our YouTube also has all our podcasts at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Check out our previous episode discussions. We also had a full season recap. And now we got the last two episodes to get into here. Some pretty interesting ones, I think, to talk about. So make sure you've seen all of Part 1 of Season 6, all 8 episodes. Overall thoughts on these two episodes. If you watch them again, anything changed? Just how you think the season ends, maybe heading into the second part as well. Michelle.
I really love these two episodes. I think they complement each other really well. I think The Face of Depression gives you something we've wanted for a long time. BoJack actively trying to make his life better and giving a lot of really good advice to a lot of his friends to help them improve their lives. And then we get to episode 8 and it's like, oh man, but sometimes that's not enough. And some things are so bad that, Sarah Lynn just keeps being this thing floating around the whole season. And I really appreciate like the tonal shift between these two episodes, because it's clear that there's a lot left to get into with Sarah Lynn and some of the darker, more complicated things in BoJack's past that he still has to address, that he can't solve with simply apologizing to someone or giving them good advice to fix their life. So I think these two balance each other really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely going to get into that right away, but I think that's a good summary to start with. Sam, what do you think of these two?
I think that they are okay.
Okay.
What?
Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
No, that's a good thing. I think they're alright. I think I like A Quick One While He's Away better than The Face of Depression. So I was thinking about it all day. I was thinking, The Face of Depression is kind of like it's like a parallel to That's Too Much, Man. Where, BoJack and Sarah Lynn are kind of going around the country on this drunken binge apology tour that doesn't turn out that well. Well, now BoJack's, by himself, and he's just going around doing things because he can't stand to be in his house, and it's actually turning out fine. It's cool. Not my cup of tea. But episode 8, I did like to see, I guess, the effects of his actions on this group of people. And I remember Dylan was saying earlier in our Discord how he doesn't like how episode 8 starts with Margo Martindale and like her monologue. No. And like, because you said that, I was paying attention to it, and I was like, wow, this is actually like pretty deep stuff. She goes into, because I feel absolved and because I feel, better, how does that affect the people who I've hurt in my past, and how does that affect their lives, and they're still hurting, and that's kind of like what this episode is about, and I think that's really great. Well, not great, great in like a narrative sense, that we're diving into this.
I think there's some significance to that scene that'll be interesting to talk about. Okay, so Sam's high on episode 8, and both are A-okay. Allie, what do you think of 7 and 8?
Well, after I did a rewatch, the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed Face of Depression because, like Michelle said, it's really satisfying to see BoJack trying and actually succeeding at helping his friends and giving them good advice based on, like, either his experiences or just what he thinks they could do. And I didn't really like episode 8 because of the reporters. I liked Margo Martindale, and there's a nuance that I want to talk about later in with that scene. But I didn't really like the reporters because they they really do not fit in. And I kind of was just zoning in and out on my first watch. But after a second one, I'd probably go with Sam and say this one is better because it's good to see the satisfying stuff, but then you're going to come crashing down, and it's really what we're waiting for, especially with BoJack. And I'm very, the cliffhanger it leaves off on is terrible, but expected, and I think it makes the season strong. The first half of the season stronger for it.
I like to take the eight's more depressing, so in this show that means it's better. That's
yes.
That's
exactly
what BoJack is very good as a show of balancing its humor with its serious, scary stuff, and I think that's definitely one of the things that that makes the show feel different from a lot of other shows. They know what they're doing and they don't shy away from the darker stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. I agree.
Yeah, man.
I think in general, probably the more depressing and darker episodes are in general better with BoJack. That being said, I really like episode 7. This episode stood out a lot on rewatch for me. Just thematically, the entire episode culminating in its ending and its focus on BoJack, I think was really good. Kind of in a season where maybe the thing that didn't work the most for me is that we bounced around a lot. This episode also bounces around, and that's its weak point, but it's very focused, I think, on BoJack being the most sympathetic he's ever been in the show, and proving that he maybe is better now. It doesn't mean that he, as we learn in episode 8, is absolved of everything that happened, but he is trying, and you believe it. And that worked really, really well for me. I think 7's one of the best of the season, along with episode 1. And 8, I think, is probably the third best of the season as well. These are two very strong episodes. 8's very, very random in certain, certain elements. It's telling a cohesive story through a lot of random stuff, and that's really good. It works really well with 7. This is a great 2 episodes to discuss together. The reporters aren't that successful for me. Margo Martindale is just kind of random in the beginning, although I think there's significance there. And then the rest of the stuff is all really good, and we interweave that to get to a point where we comment on BoJack without him really being in the episode. So I think these 2 episodes are great. I love this as an ending to the half season. It's a really quiet half season, but I guess upon further reflection, I think it's just as good as some previous BoJack, even without the hammer of the end of the season. We haven't even gotten to that yet. I still think this has been really good, and the story it's telling about where BoJack is, and to a lesser extent, I guess, where all the other characters are, has been, I think, really successful. So I'm eager, really, really high on 7, I think, after you watch, eager to get into that. But in general, the main topic, I think, of these 2 episodes is so as we've discussed, 7, I think, is about how BoJack has changed and he wants to move on with his life. He gets a new job. He's going to move. He's moving around the country. He's trying to make amends with everyone. He's helping everyone. And he's successful. He is helping people. It seems like he has changed. It seems like he is a better person. There's themes of how you can actually change as a person, and it's pretty uplifting for where his character's at right now. And then you get to 8, and 8's about how he's hurt people that he hasn't made amends with. There's still all this shit that he's done that hasn't been fixed, and it's gonna catch up to him. So it's he's moved on, he's a better person, but he's still gonna come tumbling down in the second half of the season, because it's not enough, I guess, to be this improved person and apologize. It's still terrible if you did bad stuff before. That's still there's some stuff that can't be made up for. So these 2 together, I think are pretty powerful, and Lee is pretty. It's a pretty interesting point to leave into the season, because I don't think 7's completely negated. He's still a lot hopeful for this character, and you maybe anticipate BoJack taking better actions now, but at the same time, there's certainly a fall coming for him. Michelle, what do these 2 episodes, I guess, prime you for where we're heading with this BoJack character?
I mean, all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So he's able to make amends with the people that are probably the closest to him in his life, that are still alive. And I think part of that is he hasn't done anything super damaging with someone like, Princess Carolyn or Diane. Whereas, I mean, it's a lot more complicated to be like, oh, Gina, yeah, I gave you post-traumatic stress that will follow you the rest of your career. And how do you talk about that without the publicity of being known as the person BoJack strangled, which is exactly what you didn't want? Like, how do you fix that? Oh, Kelsey, you got in trouble for breaking into that place that I told you should, and it's made it harder to get the kind of jobs you want in your career, and that has stunted your career. And that's kind of my fault. Like, how do you fix that? How do you fix someone dying? Like, that stuff's a lot more complicated, which is why it's not as easy to fix. So I don't think it's just that you can't do better and you can't be a better person. It's like, what's the degree of the harm you did in the first place? That's going to determine how easy or not it is to make those amends, and how big the consequences for those really bad things you did are. So that's why I love these two episodes juxtaposed, because like, I feel like it's so therapeutic to have Seven, and you care about all these other people, and you want them to have a good relationship with BoJack, and you want them to be better people, like, regardless. And the fact that he can support them for once is really nice to see. By episode 8, like, you're reminded of all these other characters that we haven't seen in a while also. And I feel like the show really clearly wants to go back to them to try to bring to light, yeah, some things are a lot more complicated and have way longer lasting effects, and they're not as forgivable in a really straightforward way. And how is that going to be something he does or doesn't deal with? I don't know if BoJack's ever going to see Gina or like Kelsey again. He might not, but he's probably going to have to deal with the Sarah Lynn thing, because that's been hanging over the whole season. So, and that's the worst thing, I'd argue, that happened.
Yeah.
So, like, that may be the one thing that he really answers for. But I'm curious. Yeah, it's a lot to set up for the second half of the season.
Yeah, it seems like Sarah Lynn and New Mexico are gonna catch up to him. But yeah, this totally could be a finale for Kelsey, Hollyhock, these type of characters. Hollyhock's probably slightly more likely to come back, but it's like you see them again, so you see like the ramifications BoJack had on them.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a great way to bring all these characters. I think characters back into it. I think a really interesting point you made was like the people closest to BoJack that he deals with in episode 7 aren't necessarily the ones he's hurt the most, and maybe that's why he's still really close to them, because they haven't like left his life because of how terrible he's been. So it's like easier for him to deal with the shit he's done to everyone around him in that episode. But there's also all these other people that he really has hurt throughout the series. Sam, I guess I don't know, tonally, how does maybe 7 and 8 work together? Did you find 7 uplifting when you're watching it, and then 8 is like a more depressing hammer? Or how do you have any thoughts on like how you experience these episodes together?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that 7 was more of like a hopeful sort of thing. Like, everybody was saying like, oh, this is BoJack actually doing good, and at least I got the sense like, oh, maybe he's gonna find God or do something in that vein, given by the ending, to try to, I guess, make those amends that he needs to with, Gina, Kelsey, Penny, Sarah Lynn, etc. Like, maybe that's the answer that's gonna happen somehow. Not that I like to say that, but yeah, I don't know. Something that I've been thinking about is, what do you do when there's things that you've done that are too big to apologize for? Like, you can't, like, at some point, I guess you just have to stand back and just let people live their lives and not trying to keep inserting your, like, sorries into them. Mm-hmm. And trying to let everybody move on from him. And maybe that's what episode 8 kind of was in a way. Like, we see, everybody without BoJack. We see, Gina, Kelsey. We don't see Penny, but, her presence is there. And obviously Sarah Lynn's presence is there. And I don't know. I don't know what happens when, like, you hurt somebody and, like, completely, like, change the course of their lives in a bad way, and you can't do anything about it. What's the best course of action? And I think that's what the second half of the season is going to be about. And I am apprehensive to see how it's going to handle it, because I don't know that answer in my life. I don't know how this show is going to handle it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is episode 8 about how BoJack has been wrong to try to not fix like what he's harms with these people more, or is it just that, like, what's done is done? He's done too terrible of shit to there's nothing, like, maybe he is doing everything he can right now, like him inserting himself back into Penny's life would probably not be good, and maybe should he apologize to, like, should he go talk to Sarah Lynn's mom, and is that even good? So I think those questions are unclear, and you're right, that is kind of ambiguous heading in. And is the second half going to be about that, or is it just about, like, how it's going to catch up to BoJack no matter what? And
BoJack goes to jail.
I mean, honestly, I keep saying, I think it kind of should go to jail for Sarah Lynn, at least.
Yeah.
I think that means on the table, probably.
That stupid police cat should have took down his name. I'm telling you, that's the whole issue.
Meow.
Yeah, if Meow Meow is the one
Meow
who put
Meow
BoJack.
Fuzzyface.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
If he's the one who has to take BoJack down, I don't know if we have confidence that that it's happening. Yeah, Allie, what are your thoughts, I guess, heading into next season, or any thoughts on the what we've been discussing here?
Obviously, I'm very pessimistic. Well, not pessimistic, but, like, every shit's hitting the fan, so I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't know. I want to have, like, faith in BoJack that if it came down to it, he would, like, turn himself in for, like, yeah, she got the drugs from me, put me away, do whatever. But I don't know if it would even come to that, or if he would do something to, like, bypass that. I'm not saying suicide, because I can't really see that happening, but I can see really dark stuff. And I feel like, well, definitely with episode 8, they're bringing up all the people who he hasn't apologized to yet. And I think it seems like they're going to maybe not come together, but like, not to, like, you know, get their torches and pitchforks against him. But it kind of seems like I don't know if to me, it seemed like the reporters might have, like, get to them eventually if word gets out to them about everything. So who knows?
Yeah, it seems like they're close.
Yeah, maybe. It really surprised me that Kelsey came back. I don't know why. It shouldn't have, but it did.
Yeah, I mean, I think you expect to see Hollyhock this season, and maybe we're coming off of Gina stuff, so, like, that kind of makes sense. Kelsey is she wasn't super related to much of what was going on, but
in the end, she came into it for Gina, basically, right?
Yeah, connected to Gina's plotline, and also it's
her own career. Yeah.
As Michelle said, BoJack impacted her as well. I didn't super remember that part of the show. I need to rewatch that, but so it's another part of, like, BoJack
season 2.
People. Yeah,
she gets fired.
Was it really that long ago?
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, you should break into this building," and, like, several people went. But I think she was the only one that, like, really saw the impact of that on her career, and that was, like, the start of why she started doing dumb commercials, basically, instead of exciting blockbuster movies like her male friends.
Yeah, and the episode briefly comments on that, and also it's just a larger commentary on sexism in Hollywood. So I think it, like, combines those two things well, like the impact of BoJack on her, and then just generally, like, her navigating her career as a woman in Hollywood. So in terms of where we're going next season, I don't know. Like, it's maybe not worth it too much to speculate. You know, I think, you know, BoJack killing himself, like, that's.
I don't think that's. It's a
little too far out there.
I don't think it's too far out there, but I think the show has spent so much time being like, the things BoJack is doing aren't good, and we're finally getting a season where he's actively trying to take measures. Like, it is so easy. It's not easy for suicide to be an answer, but, like, it is not actively trying to make anything better. And so I would think it would be a really, like, silly thing for the show to do at this point, because he's already tried really hard to change things, and he won't change anything dead. So I can't see that being the resolution for his character.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the reason you would think of it is it's a natural place to go with the narrative, considering like things catching up to BoJack and he's been depressed and stuff. But I think like last season's BoJack, that might be in play. This season's BoJack, you think he's in a better headspace?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that it's on the table this season. Maybe like 3, 4, or 5, but yeah.
Will they catch him, or will he turn himself in first? It
could be both. They could be like, "Yo, did you do this?" And maybe he'll be like,
but
"Yeah."
Anything happened? Like, oh, I had a drug in my car and she took it. Like,
yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's not
what would the charge be for that.
Right, like has BoJack done anything like legally actionable at the like maybe not if maybe so maybe not, but like it would be a big news story and he would be like really hammered and like
Sarah Lynn's family could probably sue him for that.
And like just like the damage to his public reputation.
Yeah, he would just be hated by everyone. Yeah, that'd be really
like
hard.
he might never work again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he has this new like job he would be fired and like he would have nothing to do and he'd have to go back to Hollywood and you'd maybe not a good place for him. Yeah, I mean certainly something's going to happen with the effect on him. BoJack ending the series dead, like I think that's like as a larger concept is certainly in play still. But also I don't know, maybe it doesn't seem as important if you look at it from the like effect of like this is from the angle of like this the effect he's had on people and like the effect is still there, I guess. So I don't know. I thought like 2 parts to the season, maybe BoJack dies then to part 1 and you see the effect he's had on part 2. That's like an interesting structure.
No, that's such a gross martyr thing. Again, this show, it does not want us to think BoJack's a great person. It's therapeutic to see him trying, but you can't. I think.
Yeah, I mean the effect in a negative way.
Is like a
clearly,
much better way to end the story.
That's a good point. It's like BoJack has to live with what he's done.
If he died, right? Then it would just be about him, right? Like I don't give a shit how him being dead mattered to people. Like I give a shit.
No, I'm not saying in like how I'm not saying like people like mourn him. Right I'm saying what we're seeing in episode 8 would have been like the whole part 2 of the season. You know, like all the negative impacts he's had. But it's probably more compelling. You're right that he's alive to see the effects that it's having on people, and he gets to grapple with that in part 2. So I think that could be really interesting. Let's dive into episode 7, episode 8, specific things through the episode. So we get a lot of BoJack in episode 7, and we do like have some other random stuff with the other characters, but I think it's like I guess striking compared to the previous episodes how much like we're basically seeing everyone kind of through BoJack's lens of he's visiting people. For the most part, there's some other scenes as well. And we start with like he's back from rehab and he is not like handling being home well, and he's like remembering everything that happened in his house. He like goes to AA throughout this episode. I found this on its own like very striking, the fact that BoJack goes to AA. This is like hard to imagine for a previous BoJack, like from previous seasons. And then he eventually even embraces it. This is just like the start of like him really seeming changed. That he can do this, that he can try to improve himself, that he can embrace like help. We get Sharona, the hairdresser, at his AA meeting, which we use as a vehicle to flashback to BoJack. Like part 2, I guess, of flashbacks we saw previously in the season. We see like BoJack got Sarah, like accidentally gave Sarah Lynn alcohol, and then he makes Sharona take the fall for that. And so here's another person he's like making amends with in this episode, and he does like apologize to her later, and she's at an okay enough place, I guess, with him, and she gives him the haircut. I guess I want to talk about that because BoJack gets a new look this episode, and he gets the haircut. He's been dyeing his hair, and so he has gray hair. He buys like a new coat and stuff, and just a very like old professorial look, kind of as like a representation of the change he's gone through. And I found this to be like a very striking visual, like old looking BoJack.
He's finally growing up.
Yeah, he's so good though. He's ready for a new chapter in his life. And again, that's what I think is so kind of funny. It's like BoJack is ready to move on from his past, but is it that easy? Is it that simple?
Right, yeah. This is like BoJack's very eager to move on. He's like even changing his whole appearance, and yeah, and then you learn that it's a good. And episode 8 is like it's not that simple, but yeah, I don't know. I found this to just be. I didn't expect us to like change how BoJack looks. Like I don't know. Like it's just.
I didn't either.
It is nice.
It's very jarring.
It's jarring, and I feel like it's a very powerful visual for like what this episode's trying to accomplish. Yeah, and then how it ties into. He like gets the haircut from a person he's making amends with as well, which is like a big theme throughout this episode. BoJack meets with Todd. Todd not in a lot of this episode, but Todd is updating his asexual dating profile, and his new photo looks the same as his old photo, very reminiscent of Tuca and Birdie with like Speckle.
Speckle, yes, it is.
Yeah, is Todd Speckle? I think Speckle is more put together than Todd.
Yeah, Speckle's more low key.
Unless he gets drunk.
Todd. I guess. What else do we do with Todd? Like, he gets a match later with
the Cinnabunny girl.
With the Cinnabunny girl, yeah. So BoJack is like in the LA airport several times and sees the Cinnabunny girl who he eventually tells about Todd's app after.
Also, right before he gets a match, we see him try to call his mom because he gets emotional after babysitting Ruthie.
Yeah. It's a good,
Somebody looked at him once and thought that he was a perfect little being. And moms are
weird.
Yeah,
it's true.
I guess like this episode concludes, because we don't see any of the main characters next episode. So this is like the last we see of them for this half of the season. So anyone have thoughts on Todd jumping out from where we leave off with him?
Yeah, it was in a good place. Yeah,
we talked about last podcast how it was. Obviously it was cold that he didn't call his mom, but it makes sense because we were saying we don't have enough background information of really what went down. But then it's nice to see him like try to make things right.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get into that at all, part 2, or if he's going to be dating Cinnabunny girl.
I hope so.
She's the only one's on the app, so
she was really funny.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yeah, those were. I like that those are just like little, like it's like a little funny gag that permeates throughout a larger thematic episode, and then it actually has plot relevance to Todd later. So I think that's kind of cool how they executed that. By the way, earlier at the AA meeting, there's only honeydew on the plate there. Yeah, that's BoJack's repentance. He has to only eat honeydew
for the rest of his life.
Yeah. We check in with Diane, who has been depressed for the last few weeks. Remind me, had this come up at all in the previous episodes?
Yes. Yeah.
There was a clip in I don't remember which one, but one of the two before this.
Okay. And she's talking to Guy before Guy leaves for a turtle swimsuit shoot. Dawson's Creek did not get bad. You just started taking antidepressants, I think is the most notable one.
Dawson's Creek is great.
Well, Diane thought so too.
Yeah,
it's so melodramatic and ridiculous, and like so like upper middle class white kids. It's amazing.
Okay.
I love it.
Was there more on that later in when he came back?
Yes, she has a sign, and this is important because so Guy being like the best boyfriend so far, he's had conversations about how he's like noticed her depression. She got a prescription from her doctor for antidepressants, and she says, like, when I was in college, I was on Prozac and I hated it. It made me really not fun. It made me like gain all this weight. I didn't like it. And after talking to BoJack, I think it's pretty clear that like it's implied she did start taking the medication because she has the signs, says, oh yeah, Dawson's Creek was always really bad. And she has like physically put on weight, but she also looks happy. And I feel like that's really significant for Diane. This might be a really good chapter in her life. I was just like, yay, Diane! I hope this lasts.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
The most striking, I think, of the check-ins at the end when she's greeting Guy as he comes back, and BoJack goes to Chicago to see her, and she tells him she's depressed, and
she has her nothing speech.
Yeah, flipping over nothings. Yeah, I thought that was a really good speech. And then BoJack says he bought into the idea of the thing that things can't be changed, but he doesn't believe that. He came to thank Diane for helping him, and then he cleans her apartment. So I think this is like a really good follow up. This scene, I guess, to like the end of last season, after where they both are now, and yeah. So Diane potentially in a better place heading into next season, still in Chicago. And I don't
More
know.
Diane.
Yeah,
Yes,
are
more
we gonna see
Diane.
more of her? I'm interested in that. She was, other than like one episode, she's pretty sidelines this season, I would say.
Yeah, dislike. I want more Diane.
She's busy writing her book.
Or not writing her book.
Essays,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see if she made progress.
Yeah, she might have
Diane
in the time, because there's subtly a lot of time that passes in this episode. Because
Yeah.
at some point 2 months have passed, so we see Diane depressed before 2 months, and then after 2 months, she started taking antidepressants. Maybe she has made progress on the book.
It's just going to be all about how shitty Dawson's Creek is.
It's the whole book, yeah. That'd be good. That's the only thing we saw her comment on after, so that's all we have to go on. In checking in on Princess Carolyn, I guess we end the assistant strike thing.
Birthday cakes.
Birthday
yeah,
cake.
grouping birthdays together, some funny office talk stuff.
Oh, I have some hot takes on cold food.
On
I wrote
cake?
down. There's cake, but then God, hold on, I need to get my notes open. I took notes. So Judah said, like, assistants are like the unidentifiable or birthday cake, something about whatever, was like the unidentifiable fruit and trail mix that you still eat because you want to gain some modicum of like satisfaction from this food. And my opinion on the fruit and trail mix, it's good. That's my
Okay.
hot take.
I'll give all mine to you then.
Thank you. I like freeze dried fruit like that.
It's good. Trail
It's-
mix is good.
Love
then.
yourself, Sam.
Okay.
I mean, I
yeah.
love trail mix, so like I have a bag right next to me.
That's good. And we don't need to get back
Yay.
into honeydew, of course, so we'll skip that.
A birthday cake is also good.
Yeah, cake, good. Hot take. Yeah.
Hot take, cake is good.
BoJack sees
Vanilla
Princess...
cake's the best. BG.
I agree.
Disagree. Well, BoJack sees Princess Carolyn in LA, and it brings the Narcissus painting as like a baby shower gift, and then
What? I thought it was about BoJack.
yeah. Asks her for a reference to the Wesleyan job. Ruthie's walking, and BoJack says suggests that she needs her own Princess Carolyn, which leads to the end where she hires Judah for chief of operations.
I'm so happy they're back together in
I
a
know.
professional context. They're really good for each other.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, last podcast I messed up big time on like the name stuff.
Oh, no worries.
Apparently, you guys were talking about origins of names and stuff, but yeah, it's good.
Well, no, we were talking about biblical stuff.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
don't know how you got there.
How appropriate for these episodes, huh?
Yeah, we have some religion stuff. Okay, Mr. Peanut Butter and Joey are going on the speaking tour as the face of depression.
It's fine. It's fine.
Mr.
It's
Peanut Butter is like,
fine.
I'm not depressed, and they're like, people that might seem happy might actually be the most depressed. And they have their commercial.
Who is depression?
Yeah. This
Oh my
this
God.
plotline is like not working right now, but we'll see what they do with the next
Well,
season.
it
right?
ends on like Pickles wanting to
Well,
like.
so
have
I
sex
think
with-
there's like separate Mr. Peanut Butter stuff. At the very least, this face of depression stuff. I feel like this hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah.
Well, who cares about that?
Yeah, well, that's my opinion.
That's like
too.
the same shit as like him trying to run for like the governor of
Well,
California.
that was like
Oh
a
my
whole thing.
God,
This
that
has
was-
been
oh.
this has been very minimized. I think this is like it's only a short amount of time. I think it's like the weakest part of the episode, just because it's random, and then we move on. There's other Mr. Peanut Butter stuff. So in BoJack is like stranded in DC after connecting flights canceled, and Mr. Peanut Butter's there to address Congress, and Mr. Peanut Butter finally gets his crossover episode.
He's so excited. He starts crying for real.
Yeah, and he's freaking out as BoJack's acting it out. That's
I
pretty
didn't
great.
know that Mr. Peanut Butter show had 3 kids. I thought it was only the Zoe and the Zelda. I didn't know that there was a third.
I really liked. I mean, this scene was like the culmination of just BoJack being a better person, because normally he'd be like,
Now he's
fucking-
actually indulging him. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
he's
"Come
not like he's going along with it and not complaining about everything outright like he normally did, and it makes me very happy.
You just get to see so many aspects of how he's improved, right? Like this is different than like helping or giving someone advice. It's like, oh, actually, like not biting back at him for no reason. Like, he's, that's a great point. And then the other Mr. Peanut Butter thing is that Pickles in the end is like, I'm tired of sleeping with so many guys. And
32 if you count 2 sets of twins as 2 and not 4. I do.
Yeah. Okay. And presumably he has a solution, which is presumably them getting back together exclusively.
No,
Dylan.
She's gonna fuck Jelly. She's gonna fuck Jelly.
Is she? That's so weird.
Yeah, that was
why?
obviously where that was going.
What do you mean,
like
obviously?
Mr. Peanut Butter.
Him. She has sex with all these guys, and she's like, it's never gonna feel the same because like I care about you the most. So can I just have sex with you? That's what she's saying, and it's cute.
No, but then Mr. Peanut Butter like looks over and is like, oh,
yeah, that's what confused
Joey.
I don't know what that means.
Joey's gonna be there. Have a poly relationship.
He's gonna get cucked.
Okay. I don't think that's what it was saying, but that's a good
he's
thought.
Gonna impersonate. I think he might be impersonating Mr. Peanut Butter on the rest of the tour, and Mr. Peanut Butter is going to go be a Pickles instead of the tour of Depression. That's what I think it meant.
I would prefer that.
Yeah,
I guess.
What do we think?
I didn't think about her having sex with. I just didn't understand that
that's
scene, but that makes way more sense.
I don't know. What do we think of the possibility of Mr. Peanut Butter and Pickles ending the series together? Like, isn't that weird?
I feel like he's gonna just get with a golden lab in the end.
I honestly think it'd be okay if they were together because like she knows like what he did now. She knows everything, and she did sleep with like 32, maybe 34 people, and she still wants to be with him. And I think like that's okay if it's her decision. I think it's fine. I'll root
exactly.
for that.
Yeah, she's aware of it and she can make that decision. And maybe they are good for each other. Who knows?
Honestly, I thought this deal would have gone a lot worse. Like the plan.
Me too. It actually like Mr. People was on board with it the whole time.
Is it just because dogs fuck too much? Like whoever they want.
I don't like that he calls her my little
Gherkin.
I hate it.
What does that mean?
It's a type
Gherkin
of
is like a pickle.
Oh no, that's cute.
Okay.
It's because gherkin is a gross word, but it's really cute.
Oh, okay.
I just don't like Mr. Peanut Butter is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I just want Pickles to be happy, and if it's with Mr. Peanut Butter and she really loves him, then I guess it's fine. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Totally fine. He's just stupid.
I think
it's very easy for him, but I love Pickles.
Last season a lot was about how Mr. Peanut Butter's terrible, and I wonder if like we're past that or if there's going to be more on like his repercussions along with BoJack in the second half of the season. Like maybe we're just done with him. I don't know.
I hope not.
Maybe.
We'll see. But BoJack goes to Wesleyan to see Hollyhock and her friend Tawny, and they're in a fight, and then BoJack's like trying to help them make up, but they make up on their own.
I love this. I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
A second. So I find it very interesting that of all the people BoJack goes to see, he is not able to give Hollyhock good advice. He's able to do it for all of his friends, but not her. She's able to find her own advice that he then uses with Sharna. Like, that's where he figured out that sometimes apologizing is a good thing and actually can lead to healing by seeing Hollyhock apologize with Tawny. And I wonder if it's because Hollyhock, of everyone else, like, she loves her parents. She's had a very good, like, healthy, normal time growing up. She's maybe the most well-adjusted person. And if that's why she's able to figure something as simple seeming as that out on her own, when it totally flies over BoJack's head. I just think that's really cool, and that he learns something very valuable from her and not the other way around.
Yeah.
I love that point that he was like cut off from giving his advice that he gives everyone. Yeah. And I feel like Hollyhock doesn't need anything BoJack has to say. Like I feel like she's
I like that he also, like Michelle said exactly, he took her advice and used it to his advantage.
And then, and another interesting, like, Hollyhock's one of the people we see the ramifications that BoJack has had on people next episode. So, like, I guess he didn't make amends for the right thing. I don't know, like maybe he didn't understand what to make up for with her, because she's like very afraid to drink it all and lose control after experiences with BoJack.
Well, again, like I was saying, like there's some things that it's easy to apologize for that are very straightforward wrongs, but then like how do you handle someone's fear of alcoholism when it runs in your family? Yeah. Like it's very reasonable that Hollyhock would have all these fears because like BoJack was an alcoholic and it was terrible. But like that's again like a very complicated thing. How do you address that with somebody? How do you assure them it's going to be okay when you yourself are recovering from that very problem? So I think it just speaks more to just, it's not that he didn't apologize for the wrong thing. It's like that's just way more complicated, and it affects people in a way that's not easy to like fix or change. You know, it just is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's what we brought up before is like, should he be trying to fix those things, or is it just done? You know, like just like he accidentally like drugged her. Like, is this something that needs to be addressed more? I feel like I think the episode isn't like having a firm stance on that yet. Whether BoJack is like should be. I mean, I think to a certain extent, it's like BoJack maybe failed with Hollyhock because we see next episode the effect that he had on her. So like maybe that's the impression I get is like there's something he should have done here. But yeah, I don't. You're right. There's really no easy fix, nor maybe any fix. Maybe what's done is done. And they talk about the Wesleyan professor job, and then after he's back in LA for 2 months, he ends up getting the job after Raven Simone was circling.
That's so like her.
That's so like her.
Yeah, he gets the haircut. And then at the end, I think the only thing we haven't talked about is BoJack goes to Old Town Horseburg to attend the horse service reenactment.
Dylan, what is that? What's that based off of?
Yeah, I was also confused.
So I guess he's visiting Colonial Williamsburg. Like, I guess that's what he's doing. The problem is this, like, because I'm an expert in this. I went to school there and live in D.C., and it's not close, so it's a 3-hour ride. So did he drive 3 hours to go to Old Town Horseburg, or is that just closer in the BoJack universe? I don't know. I guess that's what it must be that. It's, like, somewhat close by. But, yeah, though he goes to the service, and he finds, like, the reverend or whatever, he's talking about forgiving yourself and being reborn, and like he finds his own meaning in that. Even though I don't think he's really finding religious meaning, I think it connects to what he's going through of like he is reborn. He's this better person now. He has the new look, and he is trying to forgive himself and apologize to everyone else and make amends.
Not only that, one thing we talked about in previous podcasts was BoJack's own kind of hang-ups around other horses being a very deep-seated thing for him. So I think the fact that it's like a purely horse congregation that he feels comfortable attending and being a part of is another part of that healing process for him. Like, he can be friends with other horses and be connected to that part of himself now.
Yeah, definitely. Also, it's about him like finding his horse roots, and I think it relates, I guess, to being compassionate in terms of like not hating himself, not hating the type of person he is. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting. That does connect to other things from the season. And I don't know. All of this is also set to all these like check-ins at the end, set to like a song, and I found it very successful. Like how the episode ends on emphasizing these like here's people who are able to move on after all the shit BoJack has done, and maybe BoJack himself is able to move on. And that's kind of how the episode ends. And the next episode is here's the people that have not really been able to move on completely. So it is really such a stark contrast between the two, and perfect to talk about together. Any other thoughts on 7? Okay, let's get into it's good. It's good. I don't know. I really think it's good. I want to revisit 1 in more detail, but it's possible 7's my favorite of the season. 8, a quick one while he's away. So let's this episode jumps all over the place. Let's take it by person. We can start. We already talked about a character actress Margo Martindale a little bit.
No, but let's talk about that because going off of the ending, the ending of 7 being in a church and him like trying to.
That's a good point. There's more religious connections. Yeah. That's okay. Allie, what were your takeaways from the Margo Martindale stuff?
I like the parallel because like she was talking about how will people that I've hurt be okay even if I'm absolved of my sins. Like it's still affecting them. And he, is trying to absolve himself by blessing other people with peace, but the shit's gonna come back to get him. So I don't know. I didn't think about that until now after Michelle said it at the beginning. Or Sam, one of you guys said it at the beginning.
It was
Sam. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
That's a good point.
It's interesting because this is like very much not a religious show, right? But then the last 2 episodes of the season kind of have these religious elements to them to some extent.
Yeah.
Even if it's it's not really like embracing religion or anything, but
just talking about how you're forgiving yourself.
I guess it kind of logics like how people find solace in religion.
Yeah.
To, I guess, help them, guide them, the whole shepherd sort of thing, through their lives and through these, like, difficult things that, they've done or gone through, etc. So,
a lot of the time, even with BoJack, it's not necessarily religion as much as it is certain rituals or like services.
Yeah, rituals is another good way of looking at that. Yeah, I think they're very much with these forgiveness themes. So in Margo Martindale in this theme, she's having regrets of her past, and then she steals a car. And when you get to heaven, look up Margo Martindale. I won't be there, but my movies will.
Go, Margo.
It was good. It was fine.
It was. I loved it.
I guess the only thing I thought of with this scene is like what she's talking about mirrors what BoJack's going through. Like she's reflecting on herself.
Didn't she like murder a lot of people?
Like,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it was treated comedically and stuff.
In the same episode where like they went to the fucking like Nixon thing with like Kelsey, right?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a. Need to revisit. Where's our Margo Martindale podcast on her arc throughout the show?
Yeah, let's do it, Dylan.
Okay. I guess the only thing we have is here. We'll get her on. Thematically, I guess, connects to what we're doing with BoJack, and then getting into like as a transition to other people, and then also like reflecting BoJack's arc. Like, I guess that's why this is here. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, that's the only reason she would be, because she doesn't show up again later. Yeah, I mean, maybe she will in the second half, but I have no idea.
Probably it. I also do think this season is saying goodbye to a lot of people and elements of the show. Like we've talked about this with other shows that are ending. I think like Adventure Time did this. Like it has like the final episode for this character and this character, and so I feel like this might be our goodbye to Margo Martindale. Episode 8's probably our goodbye to like Kelsey and. Probably not. We'll see about Hollyhock and stuff. And then in episode 7, the crossover episode, like that's the culmination and the goodbye to that joke, one of the most prominent jokes of the show. So I feel like that's an element too. Is we're concluding all these things, but yeah, I don't know. Just this random Margo Martindale thing last season, this season is just like still pretty incomprehensible why it's here to me. Play. I think it's like an interesting transition between these 2 episodes, so I think it's interesting here, but it's like we didn't plan this out. Like what was the concept? Why did we I don't know. I feel like there's no plan with this. And
gotta rewatch it.
Yeah, we'll rewatch we'll rewatch and comment later.
Only the Margo Martindale.
Yeah, only more just compilation of her.
There has to be one on YouTube.
Yeah, that's probably true. Where we could find the episode. Probably over under what? 45 minutes she's been on the screen.
Yeah,
total?
probably like a half hour.
Yeah, so it's not a hard watch. Okay, we have the new characters. We check in on old characters, but the new characters, the Hollywood reporter Paige, and she's about to be wed, and then is about to quit the job, and then she puts it on hold to investigate the Sarah death after Maximilian Banks, her assistant, brings it to light.
The cake on ice. No, the champagne on ice. Damn it.
Yeah. Clearly like a reference to old movie
Katharine
stuff.
Hepburn!
Yeah.
She's obviously Katharine Hepburn! I love
Specifically?
it! It's so
okay.
random. Yes, so just her kind of outfits and the way she talks, and Katharine Hepburn always played like very like career-focused gals who were like smart, and like it kind of puts off men, but she matches them with her wits, and then they end up getting married so that it's not too scandalous.
I just like how she was like ruining everything in the office in the background.
Yes, and she always uses like an old ass phone, and it's so hilarious. I love it. I loved all of it so much.
Yeah, you really liked her.
Yeah, she's, and
I
again,
hated her.
I know it might feel kind of random having her and her like partner guy in the episode, but I feel like it, again, we're trying to balance the severity of the tone of this episode with something a little more lighthearted so that the serious stuff sticks more when we get to it. It can't all just be serious or it's kind of going to lose its effect. So I feel like the main reason they're there is just to give a little comedic relief to the otherwise like super serious, like sobering episode, you know?
There'd be a more comedic element in the episode, also to be like I guess a contrast with their like old timey and slapsticky and versus other elements that are going on. It's like jarring out of place, and that's probably the point of it too. So that's good. That's good that Michelle connected with this. I guess has more of a connection with what it's trying to reference than maybe we do.
They had one joke I thought was really funny.
Yeah, what was
Or
that?
one quip. So Paige like said a really long thing, and Max was like, "What crime have I committed to deserve so long a sentence?"
It is a good.
Burn.
I want to say that to somebody, but I think it's really rude.
Probably
It is
the
pretty
best
rude.
opportunity is on the podcast. Probably to me. So gear that
God,
up
what
for-
crime have I committed to deserve so long a sentence, Dylan?
Okay, good. Yeah, was that a long sentence that I said
It
before
wasn't.
That's gonna be the new OK Boomer, I'm telling y'all.
that? Yeah, that's the 50s old OK Boomer or something,
Yes,
right? Like,
basically.
Yeah. There's a there's a thought that maybe it was with the Hollyhock stuff, but I was like, if this episode came out after OK Boomer was more of a big thing, then maybe they would have included that here. I feel I had that thought, I think, watching these episodes.
With Hollyhock?
Yeah, I think maybe it's with Hollyhock. So I guess she would be the one to say it, and her friends.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think like I didn't connect as much with the Page stuff. I don't think it's like bad or anything, but I found it a little bit distracting, I guess. But it does contrast, and I do think it's funny, and yeah, I don't know. It takes me out of the episode a little bit. So I think we've seen both reactions from people. It's like people have loved it or people have not liked it as much. I don't know.
I
guess it
liked
makes
it.
sense. You liked
I
it overall?
liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
I thought
Wait,
I
what-
liked it better on rewatch, admittedly, because when I was watching initially, I was like, I just want to get to the plot. This is really
Yeah.
distracting.
Mhm.
But on rewatch, I was like, this is kind of actually funny and nice.
Yeah, once you accept it, I think it works
It's
better.
good that it looms over your head because it's just it's funny out of place, but then it comes back to the
I
crap
think
that will happen.
once I realized kind of late that BoJack does a lot of. So I think on like the last BoJack podcast I was on, I don't know which one the fucking was, but I said something effective. Oh, BoJack does a lot of like zany sitcom tropes, which I think like totally work in the context of like BoJack, like the character being a sitcom like star, and they do like a lot of dumb shit that sitcoms do, like a lot of dumb shit Full House would do, or like Family Matters or whatever, and they don't necessarily play it straight, but it's just like it seems out of place with the plot that's going on, but I can appreciate the jokes that they're trying to make after I realize that's like a lot of the reference and the where that zaniness is coming from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. BoJack does shit like this sometimes, and it's hard for me to accept, but it's other people like it more, and also once you accept it, it is done well. So I think that's like this is going to be a good summary of that. Other things Paige does, or I guess what do they interview Sarah Lynn's mom, and then we get a flashback to Sarah Lynn of her leaving the voicemail for her mom, and they hone in on Weir to indicate that there's another person there. They go outside AA, and there's people dishing on celebs, and they find a bird that saw Sarah Lynn and BoJack, and they talked about taking a trip to New Mexico and the name Penny Carson. This was like an interesting direction, I think, for the episode to take, because you're like, oh, Sarah Lynn's catching up to BoJack, and then this bird kind of swerves it to the New Mexico stuff. And then at the end, they're in New Mexico, so that seems like the first thing they're going to find out about. So I don't know. I think like why is this the thing that BoJack must reckon with first, or like is it going to be both of them? Like I feel like this was an element of the show that really hadn't been present at all. I mean, Sarah Lynn also had not been super prominent until this season, but I feel like New Mexico has not been around. So maybe it's like,
well, he did call the dad last season.
Llast season?
Oh
okay.
yeah, he did.
Wasn't that fucked up?
Yeah, it was.
I had blocked that out. Okay, that's a good point. So maybe it's a precursor. Maybe it's like just how striking it is, and it is, one of his darkest moments. So I guess it makes sense to come up here. And maybe it's an easy way to connect it to Penny with the guy. So yeah, that's and any thoughts on Paige's investigation? She seems to be very successful quickly, and
I wonder if she's
like
actually,
Katharine Hepburn.
is she actually going to get married to this dude? Who
No,
she's
that's
married
not
to?
what's what happens in the movies. It's like she'll have this like guy, like obviously like the fact that she's like not at home, not getting married, and her work is more important, is gonna put a strain on the relationship. Maybe she'll hook up with this guy who's her partner, and that's kind of the plots of those movies. So
yeah, I feel like that's how that would go.
the love-hate dynamic is very popular at a certain time in Hollywood.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible we don't see Paige again, and we just see like the story that she publishes.
No, because like that's the thing too. Like I kind of think it's interesting that they're using these two reporters who are kind of goofy, because like the thing they're investigating is very serious. So like again, like if we'd had if we had two people like investigating this like super serious tone on top of all this other serious stuff going on, I feel like that might be a little much. So I think it's an interesting choice that to investigate something like, oh, did someone cover up like a murder or something? How did this person really die? And to play it so silly right now, I think that might change too the more information they get. So I don't know. I like it though. I like it right now. I think it's an interesting choice.
Yeah, they could keep it going, you're right? Because the projection we're on would be part 2 is going to be pretty dark, so maybe elements like this would help balance it, because BoJack would probably do that. Yeah, so I think that's most of the Paige stuff. How about Hollyhock here? She's back with Tawny again, and they're going to a party in Manhattan, and they're on top of the Empire State Building, and she talks about how she hasn't drank yet because she's nervous about losing control. And she's at the party, and this guy Peter helps her through an anxiety attack, and then Peter at the end is talking about how he was the guy in New Mexico. I guess one of the people there. I had no memory of him, but
I thought that was actually really successful, because I did watch season 2 rather recently, and I didn't recognize him until he brought it up.
Yeah, but then when he brought it up, it was like, whoa.
Good job, like bringing back a character nobody remembers.
It's nice because it works so well as this like slow dawning realization of who he's talking about, because you really don't know until about halfway through what he's saying, and then it's like, oh shit, that's BoJack. Like that's terrible, and it's treated so menacingly. Like the music's really uncomfortable. Like it's just like I think it's very well crafted as a tonal shift for the show. Very well executed.
Yeah. I really liked all the Hollyhock parts. I like connecting it to the other thing at the end, and then I just like seeing like what the effects BoJack's had on her and what she's going through. I also just like her at the party with Peter. Yeah, I don't know. We could have. I feel like we could have like 2 whole episodes about Hollyhock in the second part of the season to be fine. Like she's just such a strong character.
Peter does bring up a really good thing too, because Hollyhock's she's never had alcohol, and she just assumes you would lose control if you drank at all. And the point of his story was like, it wasn't the alcohol's fault. Like this guy who showed up was the real problem, and you don't have to be afraid of drinking. Like it's people making bad decisions. It's not just like being drunk that makes things turn out terribly, which I think is like a nice takeaway too.
Yeah, and in their cases, the same guy is like both of the problems with those situations, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Kelsey, I have a lot written down for Kelsey. So
had,
she's
like, the most stories.
Yeah, I guess she had the most stuff. Yeah. So she has we see her the ad for like her immersive product placement journey for Chicken for Days, and
was the thing that like was the girl like gay, and did they like send her to like a conversion therapy thing?
I don't know.
Actually,
that's what I read.
No, actually, that's a good point, because all her characters are gay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, was Chicken for Days the chicken place and the chickens?
Yes.
Oh God. Oh, I don't want to
I just thought of that now because that
No,
makes
it's
it darker
so
that
good.
she's doing
Fucking,
work for them.
It wasn't that?
That was where like Becca, the chicken
yeah.
Todd's from, because she escaped from
Becca.
Chicken for Days Chuck.
Yeah,
But I fucking forget the name of the other chicken place.
yeah.
It's like the
those are
chickens who
just-
raise the chickens, and they're actually really like malicious.
Yeah.
It wasn't them.
Okay,
They're not Chicken for Days.
We should all just rewatch Chickens, one of the best episodes of BoJack.
Yeah, it honestly is.
Wow, I love it. Okay,
It's actually really good.
it's really good, right? Yeah, I guess it's really dark that she's doing this ad. Teens love dunking on olds. Okay, that's okay. It wasn't Hollyhock. It was Kelsey.
Dunking on the old.
Dunking
The
on the olds.
olds.
Yeah, so like if this was now, she would have said like insert an okay boomer into the ad here, right? Like that's what they would have said.
Yeah.
That's okay. I should have remembered that. So I thought that was really funny with the commercial she's doing, and this whole thing with this male director Justin.
I hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't hate him. I think he's just like an average guy trying to navigate a system that benefits him, and him being
Yeah.
aware of it, but also not knowing what to do with that
Not
knowledge.
quite as aware of it as I would like.
Yeah, the bar's so low. That's the thing.
Yeah, he's like not doing anything explicitly bad, but he's also not taking action against a system he seems to be somewhat aware of, right? And yeah.
He and I wouldn't be friends.
The thing,
I
it does
agree.
make me really sad that like I think part of the thing is like maybe Kelsey would understand a little more or have more questions for Gina about why she's changed given events that she hasn't disclosed to the public. But the male director has like no reason to ask or wonder about that. It's just like, oh, she's so strange now, unfortunately. Not like, I wonder what could have happened.
Yeah.
Like he has
Yeah.
no inclination to even question that, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah, back to that in a second because I think that's the most interesting part of all this. But the other stuff first is her agent is Rutabaga, so we get him back. Not a Rutabaga fan. Wow.
The
I mean-
worst.
He's an
Yeah.
asshole.
He says they want to hire female directors. They do want to hire female directors, just not for this particular project. Which project? All of them. Whatever Paul Feig's doing. And I like that dunk on that. Rutabaga wants her to go for the Fire Flame female superhero movie. The twist is that it's a woman. Yeah, so some great commentary on female superhero properties and how they're handled. I've been saying for years, as soon as we run out of the popular male characters and we've given each two sequels, we have to make a movie about Fire Flame. Yeah, it's all very on the nose and really good lampooning of, I think, specifically Marvel here. You get a real Yas Queen vibe from her.
Wow.
oh my god. It's so good because it's so cringy.
And then the dude's like, I've always loved Fire Flame. And she's like, oh, no, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, I was like, yeah, all of that. And some very good commentary there. And Kelsey like gives her a generic pitch. Then she goes back in. She says the movie's not realistic because the rules are different for women. And then at the end, she's like, also in my version, she's gay. Okay, bye.
Good.
And then
Yeah.
they choose her version. Yay!
Yeah, that was like shocking. I feel like that they got.
I will say that like that little moment where she's on the elevator the second time and she just kind of like smiles in relief.
Yeah.
Like it's so good because she stood up for her actual principles as a director and didn't just try to make the easy cookie cutter movie for the big studio because she's like desperate for something more challenging than the work she's been getting. And it's just like, yes, that's very relatable. And I'm glad it worked out. But like even if it hadn't worked out, I was very proud of her doing that anyway. And she was proud of herself for doing it too, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, I think the whole everything in this episode with Kelsey is about how she's kind of had to compromise and lose herself, I guess, to find any sort of success in her field. And that's a moment that's a win for her. And then it's striking because she stands up for her principles and gets the job, but then it's right into this talk with Justin about how she's looking for an actress and Justin can't recommend Gina for it because she can be difficult. And But then she, I guess, participates in what he's doing and buys into that to whatever extent that she has agency there. But it's like, okay, right back to business as usual in the sexism in Hollywood here. That she's has to / is participating in right after she does get a win there. It's pretty depressing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, what do you think of, I guess, everything with Kelsey in this episode, and specifically, like, the stuff with Gina at the end?
Like the stuff with Gina and Kelsey? Or
Which with, like, how like, they're, like, suggesting Gina as the lead for the movie, and Kelsey's and what role she has in that.
It makes me disappointed, because I would think that Kelsey would be more open to, like, you know, even, like, she isn't, like, savvy to know all of what Gina's going through. But she fucking, like, worked with BoJack and, like, helped get, like, the best stuff out of him, even though he was, like, difficult to work with. And it's, like, it's a different thing with Gina, because, like, we, the audience, are made to be sympathetic towards her, because we know what happened. But Kelsey doesn't have that context. To her, Gina might just be, like, this diva starlet who, like, you know, Justin's not a fan of anymore, because nobody knows what happened. And I don't know, it's a really difficult thing to wade through. And why can't we all just love each other and give each other hugs and work through our issues?
Yeah, and to Michelle's point, that if the positions were reversed, Gina would have been better, or Kelsey would have been better for Gina in that situation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that's not the situation, because, like, I do agree with Dylan's point that, like, it is clearly a case of not knowing any of the context and just hearing word of mouth from a friend that she's difficult, that her mind initially is just like, oh, like, okay, I don't want to touch that. Like, I don't want any complications. Because, like, there is an inherent sexism to just, like, you being labeled a difficult woman in the entertainment industry, and that just immediately gives so much bad faith, and nobody wants to touch you from just, like, a simple thing somebody might say. Like, that's enough to ruin a career and future opportunities. That's like nothing. That's terrible. And, like, I also think it's interesting that the one he does recommend, they're both like, oh yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that other lady. And it's like, those reputations are held by a thread. Like, someone's bad opinion of you is all it takes to not be recommended and not get prestigious projects. That's really terrible. It's just tough stuff. So, like, I like that, because it's very believable that would happen.
Yeah, and we know Courtney Portnoy, and I don't remember specifically, but, you know, Gina's, like, definitely a better actress, right, than Courtney Portnoy.
Her name is Courtney, not Courtney.
Courtney Portnoy.
Courtney's...
It's specifically a tongue twister.
It's
supposed to be
Courtney Portnoy.
Courtney Portnoy. Yeah, so I think overall Gina's whole story here is, like, Gina's, like, this amazing, like, principled, progressive woman, and she's, like, even her is, like, getting crushed in the system that perpetuates, like, all the sexism in the Hollywood industry. Like, even her is, like, beaten down by the system, and she's, like, forcing her to participate to whatever extent, and, like, it's super depressing.
I just realized something. Like, isn't it oddly, like, sad that Mr. Peanut Butter is an actor, and he has literally become the face of depression. Like, he is being lauded for having mental health problems, and it is propelling his career in this new way. Whereas, like, the fact that Gina has, like, realistic mental health problems from, like, bad work experiences, it's, like, destroying her entire career.
Yeah, like, that's a great point. That's so a good contrast. Yeah.
Why is Mr. Peanut Butter allowed to have mental health problems and still be treated professionally?
Because he's a man.
He's not. Like, objectively, though, this is so sad.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do think the show is probably intending that point, too, that contrast. That gives more, I think that helps the Mr. Peanut Butter depression, the face of depression stuff, because it gives them more of a point. Okay, I like that analysis. And then we talked about Gina already, but she's worried about this new stunt that Justin's putting in the movie, and then when they do the stunt, she's like, she's clearly scarred from the BoJack stuff last season. So.
Well, that guy has his hand, like, kind of around her neck when they're dancing. It triggers her.
Yeah.
This no-name jackass gets the fuck of the season, by the way.
I didn't know we had that word.
Yeah, he says to Gina, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah.
I feel like for this show, that's not that bad of a person, but yeah, it was pretty bad.
Just disappointing.
Why are we disappointed in that guy? I feel like
Because
we don't
it
know
should
that
have
guy.
been someone else saying fuck. It's the only fuck they get.
Oh, the fuck of this. Oh, that's what we're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
I misread what we are just talking about. Yeah, this is the fuck of the season. Yeah, okay.
The fuck of the half season.
I was the word fuck. I was like, fuck is in like a bad person. Like
Yeah,
that's
no.
how I was interpreting it.
no.
Not active in that.
I was like, this is the worst person this season. I'm making
No.
BoJack is always the fuck of
Okay.
the season.
Yeah, BoJack gets the award for the
Yeah.
fuck of the season always. Okay, this season he's much better. Maybe. Okay, that's it. Michelle, any other thoughts on episode 8 or final thoughts on the 2 episodes?
No, I don't think any specific extra thoughts, but there's a lot in these episodes, and I feel like they are some of the best of the season, and they complement each other really well. And I'm like so excited for the second half of this season because it's gonna be a lot of not fun shit, but it's like therapeutic in a way to finally wade through all that, you know, and to see what happens. I'm really hoping BoJack does the right thing. I think there's literally 0% chance of him dying, but you know, I'm one person and that's my take.
Not even in like the last shot of the
No.
Okay.
I think it's cheap and easy, and like there is nothing more satisfying.
No
seeing
flash
somebody-
forward to his funeral.
No,
and-
living with your own consequences is the most healing thing I can imagine for someone who fucked up so bad like that. So that's what I want to happen.
Okay. Michelle wants BoJack to live. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very anticipated second part of the season. I wonder if it will be therapeutic, what we get, or if it will be. I feel like this show's version is
That
that
might be
it's
my
just.
crushes. Like maybe Hollyhock's gonna like find out all this shit and be like,
Yeah.
you know what, I don't want anything to do with you, and he'll never be in her life, and that'll make him really sad. But like
Okay, that'd
that's
be really
just,
depressing. Yeah,
you know, that could happen.
that'd be better for Hollyhock.
It would like I think that would be
BoJack
bad.
seems better now, but it would still be better if he was not in her life. I think. I don't know. Maybe this season. I would have said that definitively for sure. I'm like such a BoJack hater, and this season, specifically episode 7, has done a lot with his character. So, puts us in an interesting place next season. Sam, final thoughts on these 2 episodes?
They were good. And
Okay, you said they're okay in the beginning. And
yeah,
now they're
well,
Yay.
good and okay are synonyms, Dylan.
good.
I don't know. I'm a little bit tapped out emotionally from all the thoughts that we have explored in
I think
this,
that's a successful BoJack podcast.
in this
If-
like hour and a half that we've spoken. I'm thinking about how these things relate to my life, and that's fun. But
Feel you.
I
Run.
don't know. Like BoJack, hopefully he finds some peace and some good to do in the world that will directly heal those that he has hurt. I don't know. It's a lot, man.
yeah, hugs.
Might say
Thanks.
that's too much, man.
That's too
Mike-
much, man. Wow.
That's
Okay.
too much, man.
How many times we made that joke? I don't know.
I gotta
maybe,
eat all that.
Maybe only this time.
Maybe only that time. Maybe. Allie, final thoughts.
Final thoughts are I'm afraid for the rest of the season / show, but I'm also very excited. I find myself relating to BoJack a lot of the time, not in the like alcoholic abusive sense, but in the self-loathing sense a lot, and it's nice to see him going from telling himself he's a stupid piece of shit to not believing that anymore. And
Yeah, that's a good
it's
point.
not like
Yeah.
uninspiring, but I mean, I was literally just talking about this in my therapy session today, but it's kind of inspiring me to try and do the same. So it's
Honestly,
Oh, that's
I'd
great.
say that's the biggest reason I probably am so against the suicide idea, because like BoJack is an example that real people should be able to take something from, and like nobody should be like, oh yeah, it's a great idea to kill yourself to be a martyr so you don't have to deal with anything anymore. Like that is not satisfying. But
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean, I don't
satisfying
think
to
we would
try
be-
better.
I don't think we would like agree with it or like anything, but yeah, I think we talked about that in the first podcast. I think that's the best point as to like why that wouldn't happen is because BoJack on one hand is this piece of shit, but on the other hand he's representative of like mental illness and a lot of stuff for the audience. So like that element of his character, I think, definitely needs to be considered in what we're gonna ultimately do with him at the end here. Yeah, like how do they reconcile these 2 parts when all this is catching up to him? I think that's gonna be really interesting. Yeah, very, very much looking forward to part 2.
What,
Definitely one
enough
of
to end?
Yeah, well, because Netflix said so, not because they wanted to, which is really terrible.
Yeah.
But they're making the most out of this last season.
Okay.
And yeah, so we probably one of the most anticipated series finales.
If not-
Animation
Yeah.
history. Yeah, for sure.
For me,
Yeah.
it's definitely the most.
the
It's,
most. Yeah.
My favorite show of the decade.
It's a
Yeah,
really
I feel like we were
good
more
show.
hype about the Korra finale, but
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
Look,
BoJack
Yeah,
had
about
more
that.
time to develop everything than Korra did. Also,
much like the Korra finale, it will come out at the wee hours of the morning, like because Netflix
Yeah.
releases it at 3 a.m. Yeah. Well, yeah. So who will stay up for the last few episodes of BoJack? Wow.
Unless I
Maybe.
have work. Otherwise, no.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be back for part 2, season 6 coverage, the series finale reactions, and all the breakdown of the season. Make sure you're subscribed to not miss any of that at overlyanimated.com. Search for us on your podcast app or on our YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to everyone so this is our last season 6 part 1 podcast. Thanks to all of you guys for being on. Very big thanks to Alex for hosting most of these episode discussions. We'll all be back to break down part 2. Let us know what you thought of our discussion here, any of our discussions on the season, overlyanimated.com. You can come talk about BoJack with us in our Discord at overlyanimated.com/Discord. And if you enjoyed this, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Alec, aka Frozone. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Yeah, back for BoJack in
January.
two months about. Yeah.
February.
Not-
Unless we do that Margo Martindale podcast.
Yeah, we have time. We have time
We can
now.
make it a Christmas special podcast.
Yeah.
The most anticipated.
Okay, maybe if Sam prepares like here's every episode where she appears and here's the timestamp.
Oh yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not
Is
worth
it gonna
it.
happen? It has to be.
It has to happen now.
Unless someone
I'll
did
help
it
you,
already.
Sam.
Maybe someone did it already. I don't know.
It has.
On
I'm gonna
YouTube.
look it up now.
Check
Okay.
the wiki.
Yeah, does the wiki have? Yeah, the wiki probably has all their appearances. That would probably help a lot. Okay, that's it though. Maybe look forward to that. Probably not, but we'll see. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.